Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hello.
And this is the skating lesson where we have a passion for figure skating. So if you're new here, please subscribe below and hit that like button so we know that you're awake and breathing and with us and having a good day. Because, Jonathan, it was World Mental Health Awareness Day on the 10th. And in the US, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. And we've had 3 skaters discuss mental health publicly. We had an interviewer tell Gracie that strong people kill themselves. Kanye West visited the White House and said we should abolish the 13th Amendment. And USAG hired a interim president who attacked the sponsor and potentially the race of its top gymnast. So it's been a week in skating. There's a lot that's been going on. So how have you been?
I was like, I attended a wedding. Yeah, that's intense. And you know, the sad thing is as that interview with Gracie was released, it was like getting discussed and it was all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm really going to have to sit down and listen to that tonight. And by the time I went to sit down and listen to it, it was magically erased from all things that would have appeared. So I never really got the chance to hear it in its entirety.
When it really started taking off, I listened to it at work, and I definitely listened to it on the lunch break, listened to it on the coffee break, listened to it in the extended bathroom break. You know, the things that you do when you have to know what is going on. So to recap for the people who didn't see it, it was an interview conducted by a father of a skater in Arizona, and the father. He said he had former depression issues, so I don't want to project things onto him. I could suppose things, but he was obviously very successful. He kept bringing up how expensive Scottsdale is. He brought up his Porsche Cayenne. He pronounced it Porsche Cayenne, and my inner
so just keep that in mind. Yeah.
New money. And it was a lot. So he obviously had some mental health struggles and was really talking to Gracie when she was going through it around January. So he was also building a channel. It was only his 6th video on the channel. And I imagine that this was an interview request that didn't go through Yuki because Gracie has a very more conservative agent who would not have been, who definitely plays the USAG game down the middle. You know, she's not really taking risks for her clients. And with Gracie coming back in the US, if I had to suppose why it was taken down, that would be my guess, as opposed to the USFS taking it down.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, what was the most, shocking bit of information for you?
So she went into her situation more. I think she's opening up more about what happened at the full, it's not, she doesn't have any obligation to tell anyone, every last detail,
Right.
But she did talk in kind of broader terms about having had, depression, suicidal ideation, that she cursed off people at, she referred to it as the incident, what happened at Champs Camp. And she said that a skater heard her say something and said something to get her help. So, more of the details kind of came forward about what was actually going on, about what we heard about what happened at Champs Camp last year. And, I thought that she seemed pretty open and pretty, strong talking about it. And the interviewer definitely was, I think, on his own journey with his own demons, and maybe wasn't the person to conduct this interview. So I understand why they deleted it. I don't know if you would want that to be the avenue where you discuss such a big story, and it was starting to get traction.
Well, because she has a big story to tell, and it was so clear. And I don't know what his other videos were like, but maybe this came as a shock, what kind of traction this kind of thing could really get.
Yeah.
Because it was really exploding in the very brief period of time that it was available.
Yeah.
And there's this thing about skating, and it's happened with her several times. There's a real desire to quickly make sure that they're all okay now. As if the insinuation being you can fix it. And so even when she was tweeting at nationals, everyone was like, oh, she's here, she's being hilarious, she's all better now. And you're like, well, actually, maybe that's not what this means.
Yeah.
um, that there's never been, there's all these young people that are going through big moments in their life, and a month later they're expected to be like, oh, and now I've learned and I've grown and now I have total perspective and know how to move forward in this next chapter. And you're like, whoa, you've barely begun this chapter, let alone closed it and moved into a next one. So there seems to be a real fire in regards to getting everyone to have experienced personal growth and healed.
Yeah, and I thought just even going to nationals was it was a questionable decision in the sense of how it could affect someone watching the Olympic team you were supposed to make when you were just in treatment. To me, that seems not like a good choice. Like when you go through treatment, or you talk about like making good choices and making healthy choices for you that are going to keep you mentally happy. And for the Olympics, for someone that was supposed to be there and went through such trauma, that's so triggering. That's so emotionally triggering that I thought that was worrisome. And we didn't see her tweet as much during the Olympics. It was not in the same way.
Yeah, because again, she had such a following about it. It became such a high-profile thing that it's okay to sit low for a little bit, to lay low a little bit. And we've discussed it, the idea of this Grand Prix assignment. You just want someone to be set up for success. So does this set her up for success?
Yeah, so I was tweeting about this, and I think people took it that I didn't think she was deserving of a Grand Prix spot, and that's not what I meant at all. What I was saying is that I don't think that it sets her up for success, what you were saying, to go to the Grand Prix. Because, okay, after your father passed away, you didn't do opera gigs for how many weeks, months? 3 months?
I had to cancel like 3-4 months. Yeah.
Right. So you canceled like 3-4 months. When you came back out, now this is a personal loss, it's an emotional thing, and it's hard. It did take you out of the opera game. It took you out of your routine. So, I mean, I'm sure you were still in good voice, maybe not practicing as much, How did you build back up when you came back to that?
Yeah, it was tricky. I mean, not to get overly involved.
Yeah.
It's because I actually also he had a company in place that I had to go run in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like just grief that prevented me from being able to practice. Like there was literally no time at that. So it was my voice started to not for real, but mentally I felt like it was atrophying because it was just lying dormant. So when I would come back first for some just orchestral concerts, then it was just for some concerts where I was just doing a few arias. For me, I would do a little bit each day, and the quality could be okay, but vocally it was the stamina that was the issue. That before I was singing a complete 90-minute program without a microphone and without taking a break or anything, I needed to build back up to that. So, but it's slow and steady. If I had tried harder, it wouldn't have made it come back any faster. It's a muscle. So it just takes certain time. In the same way, I would think for her, it's, again, how can we say how she's going to do at the Grand Prix? But by the time if she's going to do well at the Grand Prix, she has to kind of be at a certain point right now. So it's just you could maybe just dodge a bullet here if you assess what's happening now and maybe decide whether or not to move forward with the Grand Prix, because it doesn't mean anything beyond a timeline.
No. So this was the other thing, is that there's a tiny thing there where she wants to, so there are funding, sorry, earphones were coming out. There are funding considerations here, and also if Gracie is going to get to nationals, she would have to do this, or she would have had to have gone to regionals, which she didn't. Now, originally, people were speculating they didn't think that she could get through regionals to sectionals. So if you don't think that someone could get to regionals and sectionals, putting them out on the Grand Prix is really setting themselves up for criticism. Now, we may be supportive of Gracie and put it in context, but it's still, the entire world may not envelop her in the same way. When you go to Russia and you put someone back out on that stage, it's hard. There could be a lot of things. Now, she could go through this and be entirely fine, but the reason why I think it's a risk is that Gracie is someone who was such a perfectionist before and really has struggled, and that's not something that just goes away. You learn tools to deal with it and hopefully, you know, feel better about it, but it's a trait. It's who you innately, it's a personality. And I think that, you know, she's someone that if she made one mistake before, the rest of the program would often fall apart. So I just think moving ahead, setting yourself up. I mean, she wasn't doing shows this summer. And the reason why she wasn't performing in the shows is because she wasn't really ready to put herself out there yet. So when you're getting back...
Which is totally fine.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay to not be ready yet. But then maybe change the date of the thing you're trying to get ready for. Yeah.
I think everyone I really believe that she, if she is prepared, if she is able to be, you know, mentally on point and, you know, emotionally, I think she could be really successful. I think she's really physically strong. I think she's really physically gifted. And I think if she trains in the right way, she could be incredibly successful. And also a really big advocate and voice for what, you know, she's been through. She's also someone who... her family, she talked about, you know, and her parents, and we know about her dad losing his medical license and things like that were going on. There was addiction in the family. Even when she was born, it said in one of the articles. So there's clearly a lot going on. So when people are talking about her team and why, you know, I'm sure her team made the decision. Well, her agent is the one that sent Jenny to Richard Callahan after the New York Times article came out where he was, you know, there were, you know, improper allegations. That's come back up again. And after Jenny had her awful experience, the agent then sent Kimmy there. And then the agent has also always gotten the next big star. So when Gracie started to dip, she got Karen. When Karen started to dip, she got Brady. There's a feeling of being replaced, and you feel the pressure in these girls as they become micro celebrities. They get endorsements, they get sponsors. So there's a lot of pressure on them. And I really think that when we're talking about mental health in a serious way, the athletes don't really have mental health training, performance coaches, sports psychologists. Like, they probably really need a team to handle this, especially when you're dealing with teenagers and young adults. And it just doesn't seem like the best decision making to put someone back out there. Like, if the USFS wants Gracie to really get back to where she was, they should probably fund her for 1.5 years to just train and get your skills back, because this year really means nothing in the long run.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's a really tricky situation, because also there's like a revisionist history that everyone now boils down the story to. Gracie was perfect. Gracie was 100% a happy human being until she finished 4th at one World Championships. And it's a bit of an unfortunate recollection of how it all happened.
And that's how she tells it, too. You know, and it's
it
not
is how
the whole
she
source.
tells it.
Yeah.
Well, and because, again, not that she owes the public her personal struggle, but just what happened at the World Championships was something that was happening often. Maybe that was just the largest scale in which it had happened.
And also a culmination of bad habits and things we had heard and seen. And
So things that needed to be addressed always, that were underneath the surface from the get-go, even when she was on fire back in the day. You know what I mean? So it just... and you don't want to see her have to rush and say she's better now. Like, everyone just wants her to be like, I'm all fixed. Everyone wants her to be fixed. And I'm like, let her go through it. You know what I mean? It will be a journey. So.
And also, like, her personal appearance changed a lot over time, where she was, like, muscular, then she was waif-like, then she was... I mean, there's a lot been going on with her every season, even from competition to competition for a long time. So I think... there's a lot there.
Different trajectories, different cities, different coaches, different plans, different choreographers. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of unsteadiness.
Because I remember, like, we saw her train, she was here, then she went to the Japan Open, and she was there, then she went to Skate America, and then she went kind of back up, and then it was the kind of situation where she was in France, and then the terrorist thing happened, then the Grand Prix final was a real low, then she got back up for nationals, and then they sent her to 4 continents, and it was a disaster. And then they, you know, the world. So it's been like, that was just one season.
And that's the part that's left out.
Yeah.
Is that this kind of unpredictability was kind of a constant. And to me that sets the stage for what happened in Boston much differently, you know?
Which is why I don't think that her going back out there is wise, because of the personal history. And it's not like she wasn't training then. I think it's good that she's training kind of out of the spotlight and that she is, working her way back up. It seems worrisome. And in skating, there's such a desire to, like, get behind the ice princess. And, people do really root for her, but they may not be giving her sound advice at the same time. There's such a culture of star effortry. She's
one of those athletes that she crosses over into the main media. And so then the main media speaks about it in a way that just makes you think they don't really understand the sport, which so many of those big markets don't really. But like sometimes you can talk about a skier or a different winter Olympian, kind of coming back out of the blue and re-honing the craft. It's not quite how that works in skating. You know what I mean? Like,
we saw that with Daisuke, and we'll get that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can't just, even when you have beautiful skills, like to just plop back. It's not as easy as it might be in other sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's really shocking in many ways. So the other thing I was going to tell you is Ryan Lochte got is in treatment of some sort this week. We've seen Michael Phelps. So this is very common according to these sports. And it may also be indicative of kind of the personality types that are willing to put themselves through the hard training, may be more susceptible to not knowing when to get help or when to say no or when to step back, because there is such a fighter mentality and a willingness to put yourself through bodily, physical, emotional pain. So...
There's an incredible book that I read back in the day, and I should reread it again because it's really applicable to all of these athletes. And it was called like The Psychology of the Performing Child, or I don't know. It sounds much cheesier than it actually was when you read it. And it talks about these high-performing kids that were grown up that like all of their self-worth is in achievement and like all this kind of stuff. And there were some passages in particular that like, I'm going to have to go back and revisit it, that like this Gracie situation or these really high level athletes have to struggle with in a totally different way, not just in like a child performer way, but really in how it creates their psychology as an adult. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
We could definitely talk about that more offline, Jonathan. I was.
That's right. Yeah.
I was giving a speech about my perfectionism struggles on Tuesday this week. So
yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. It's a thing. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting.
And Gabby Daleman, also claiming. Excuse me, I did not mean to say the word claiming is.
No. Sorry. No, she
saying. Yeah.
And and even with that situation, so the one thing that I was going to say is that I don't think the skating world is always healthy. Is that so? Gabby's getting treatment. She has exhibited signs that maybe something was troubling, even from just Instagram, from the way that she was. And this is why I don't think that people in skating have your best interest at heart at times, or they think they do, but they're all from like a weird culture. So Gabby Daleman has been chopping off half of her body on Instagram for a long time. And for a long time to where first it was kind of laughed at and...
because I always say there's that app called Facetune where you can like do things to it, and then I will always giggle because it's so clear on Instagram when someone first discovers it.
Yeah.
And then your mom's friend is posting some picture where she's like so highly filtered and adjusted that you're like, oh, Susan just discovered a Facetune. Here we go.
So first it was kind of like sent around by other skaters to be like, and then it became more alarming. It was like the more she did Facetune, the thinner she made herself and the more unrealistic, and it didn't look like her. To me, that was just like when people are starting to, you have a micro like following, you start to have a big following, then you start to like exhibit signs that maybe something might be off. And then I feel like there's always this desire to like, well, we'll deal with it after the Olympics. Let's just get her to the Olympics. Well, how are the Olympics going to go if you're already having struggles? Like, if you're not mentally, emotionally in the right place. It's the same thing like training. How are the Olympics going to go? When Gabby goes out there and completely bombs her Olympic program and her Worlds performance, to me that's not surprising when you've seen that there were all of these signs beforehand and no one in her life, not her team, no one stopped it because it didn't stop. So then when she was really, having, people talk about post-Olympic depression, and then she was, very emotional and crying on Instagram Live and doing things that maybe she would regret
or
later.
Cries for help in their own way. Yeah.
And no one stops it until now. That's why I'm saying, like, the same situation with Gracie putting herself on cup of pressure. Like, it's just a little worrisome.
Glutton for punishment, a little bit. Yeah.
So,
but I'm glad that Gabby knew and is like, and with enough time, hopefully, for other skaters to fall in line, was able to see the writing on the wall and knew she needed to withdraw.
Yeah.
So.
And then Larkin, we didn't hear why she withdrew yet. I don't think we have.
There was a vague mention of an injury in the particular article I read, but it was left pretty vague.
So this is interesting because it does open up on a practical level. First of all, we wish Gabby all the best. On a practical level, the skating world does move on. Canada's in a situation where they don't have a top lady. That's the way it is. I think that
Megan Duhamel is somewhere plotting.
She was doing her triplets where she, oh my goodness, Megan Duhamel, last night on Instagram, she showed us where she first got her first 5-0. And I remember thinking, like, was that a typo? Was it 6-0? Because, you watch those videos without sound. So she got her first 5 at the city where they were skating last night. Someone sent it to me. It was
amazing.
Great. It was just only Megan would remember exactly where she was.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
I love her.
Even in
so
a
much.
6.0 system, she was all about the numbers.
I love her forever. So I thought the interesting thing though is that it opens up spots. And Dabin Choi, who I believe had a personal loss in the family last year, maybe her father. I don't want to get that incorrect, but.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if she was injured as well, but it may be taking some time. So it opens up at a practical level. So subbing someone like Yoon-soo in for Dabin would make a lot of sense. It does come down to Canada to decide who they're going to invite. And a lot of times what happens is there is some politics why you don't often see that. We often wonder when there's like a skater that didn't get a Grand Prix, but they're kind of like potentially going to make the final. And we've seen it with Japan a lot, where they won't invite the next really talented skater because it may hurt their skaters' chances of making the final. And that's just, it's being bad for skating fans, but it's being a good federation. That's protecting your own. That's protecting your queen. So that's.
But now Canada, in this instance, doesn't really have a horse in the race.
They don't. So
I would think that they would just want someone to help bolster numbers, because to have lost 3 women in the lineup, they're going to just want somebody.
So if she does get the invitation, which I imagine she would get Canada, and I asked Ralph last night and he didn't know yet, so there's not a decision there. You would have. Medvedeva, you'd have Tuktamisheva, you'd have Mariah Bell, and then you'd have Yoon-soo, and that would be a really strong field for Canada. That would,
absolutely.
That would be an event really worth watching. So I imagine they may do that, because she is kind of the next one to get a spot. Like, maybe Bernice got one at another spot. Sorry.
I did see that. But so this... her being invited has nothing to do with Dabin Choi withdrawing and being from Korea, because it has nothing to do with the country. It's just that Eun-soo is literally right on the top of the list of.
Now, I think you would think that they'd always try to replace a country with another skater from that country if possible. So there's just a lot of factors of why she will probably get that spot. So I would imagine, I think we're going to see more skaters withdraw in the coming weeks. We don't know about Karen Chen's injuries, if she's really training or ready, and a lot of stuff from that. So I would imagine she would. So it's just.
But by the same token, let's say a Gracie or a Karen Chen do withdraw from their event. That's the U.S. is basically relinquishing that spot. It's not like a U.S. skater will just be sent in.
Correct.
In their place, so.
Correct. Under the ISU rules with the rankings, oftentimes they will. How things get, and we know these federations make deals with one another, but that's kind of how there's politics involved here. So yeah, it'll be curious to kind of keep us on our toes in the next coming weeks. But just kind of wanted to point out that math for. I wrote down where she was in the coming weeks, but getting into the actual skating. Oh, and just USA Gymnastics, I think they want to light themselves on fire at this point. So they
just can't make one good decision to save themselves. Jeez Louise.
So they hired Sonny Bono's late wife, or if he's late, is she a late wife? The late Sonny Bono's wife.
Widowed.
The late Sonny Bono's wife. Mary Bono was hired. Now, she finished out his congressional term. She's an attorney. Now, she was representing USA Gymnastics as outside counsel in their Nassar litigation, which is a normal thing that an organization would hire an outside counsel and bring them in-house for either attorney position or in-house counsel or a leadership position. But in this case, where they're in such PR and she's the one who's questioned abuse survivors as kind of the opposing party and been the bad cop at depositions, not a good move to begin with. Like,
no.
You have John Manley with a following, and then to have her, within the last month, she tweeted herself taking a Sharpie to Nike and Xing it out, crossing out the symbol after the Colin Kaepernick ad. Again, not wise when Simone is a Nike athlete and also African American, and yeah, just not a good strategic move, I would
That's
think.
not the direction you were looking to go in.
Yeah.
That's like maybe the only thing you could do that would be worse.
Yes. Okay. So I guess we should start chronologically. Let's start last week with the Ice Carnival on Ice in... So what performances kind of stood out to you? We got to see some skaters that competed their free skate, do their short program. We saw other skaters, come. It's a big weekend.
I got a little text from Dave that said, be sure to check out Machida.
Yes.
And I did in his 9-minute exhibition program.
I have a lot of
that
notes
was
about
very
this.
Performance art-y.
Yes.
The overall aesthetic, the costume, the hair, and the makeup was a surprise. It was a bit like Judith Light, like a 1980 glam.
So it's referencing something. It's like referencing John Curry, which was referencing maybe Nureyev, which is some sort of piece abstraction. So if someone could rate exactly what the reference.
It had that like 1970s solo on ice art film vibe to it. He had a couple of those Nijinsky like hand things that we knew from Afternoon of a Faun and stuff. And this just like flowy shirt. There was something very John Curry-esque about it. But also just in that it was like also the Duchesne's, the planets. Like it had that whole kind of thing going on. And then he didn't even start like jumping triples till like the 6-minute mark or something.
And then it went into Mahler.
Yeah, I was like...
And then there was this hand thing going on here. And also I was really looking at his rear end in those tights. I mean, weren't you? How could you not? At a certain point, it was impressive. It was a impressive physique. I think that he was referencing ballet tights. It was just.
I was too busy trying to like really, because there was a definite story of like anguish, and there was like falling like from like lunge positions to the ice, and I was like, something dramatic is happening. I just don't know what it is.
It was like the truce of a free skate where when she comes forward, something is happening that we're communicating, but I'm not quite sure what the story is. But
I have no idea what it is, but it seems very emotional.
Yes. It reminded me, I wrote down, so tomorrow is the Ice Theater Gala, and I will be going. For our girl Christy Yamaguchi and Scott Hamilton are being honored. And last year, a girl skated to Sonar Sounds for 6 minutes. It went on for
whales and stuff.
Like whales. It was like the sound of a submarine was recorded or something. I don't know. It was one of those things that maybe it sounds cool when you're maybe doing some drugs in the 70s, when I imagine ice theater came to be, but for the audience, it wasn't as intriguing. And she skates around with like it was a recreation of a previous ice theater performer, and she was like skating around with like wings, flags, and for like 6 minutes, like a cool idea for maybe 90 seconds.
And that's the thing. It's the sustainability of those things. You're like, cool, and then 30 seconds in, you're like, so what now?
So
more sonar sounds. Okay, great.
So I once had a fling during finals week with a very nice boy who was into Tori Amos, and he could play 2 keyboards at once, like Tori does in her concerts, and I thought it was the coolest thing at the time. And I just remember he took me to he was graduating, but he took me to his friend's film project, like where they played everyone's films for all the film majors. At a liberal arts school, there was some weird shit. But let me tell you, this one person had a thing where it was like a buzzing sound, and we stared at a snare drum on film for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden there was a man in a costume who just runs across the screen and knocks it over, and that's how it ends after 5 minutes. And that to me is kind of where ice theater sometimes goes when we have the sonar performances, or Machida's 10 minute
It's a
glorious skating, but I wasn't sure what was happening.
Amazing. But what I at least is he's giving you quality skating.
Quality, and it was interesting.
Yeah, it like, so even though I didn't understand, unlike other programs, sometimes when you're like, I don't know what's happening, and I don't find this a rewarding experience. But his skating always was really beautiful to me. And his retirement to this day still baffles me a little bit, because it seems seemingly on the outside abrupt and slightly unclear. Because I thought he was quite a dream skater. He was really talented physically and always committed artistically, and really did some cool stuff. So it was just nice to see him doing anything. And
he looked great. So I thought he looked like he could compete as Oda could compete. They should all come back to Japanese nationals.
Exactly.
And we saw Shizuka Arakawa do a triple Salchow on Instagram that was also impressive. So we saw Nathan do his Caravan performance. And I wrote down, Jonathan, is this the moment in high school when you realized that you took music more seriously than other people? Is that when you grow out your hair? Like, Nathan's going through something. Like, was that the angst phase? What's happening here?
Yeah, this is his Britney 2007 head shave moment.
The hair is becoming such a distraction. I don't think his mother went to Connecticut with him. This is...
Yeah, and it's not because, like, I'm some like weird conservative, like he can't have the long hair. It's just when it's just actually distracting from the skating, like it's a bit of an issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, do something cool, do something different, but it's just not that maybe. And not even for an aesthetic, but literally while you're skating, it cannot be, you know.
So the actual
because we were talking about like.
Yeah, oh no,
go for it.
No, you okay?
No. I was going to talk about dumb hair things, because you were talking about, like, when the girls skated with long hair that was down, it was, like, considered, like, more of a feat than
apparently
just pulling it back.
Apparently that is really difficult to do. Like, girls...
But so I would think having it jangle in your face is even worse. But...
He is his own artist.
Correct.
I also... Yeah. So... We saw him do a big single axel, which is a little worrisome because the triple axel is a nemesis for him at times. He did a good quad toe, came back, a scratchy triple lutz. I thought that he lost some of the nuance of that flying spin. It wasn't so good here. But, you know, still looked decently like he's preparing for, you know, the Grand Prix. I just wonder, do you think that this situation is going to hold? Where he's at Yale, the skating seems a little up and down. Like, something's got to give.
The programs, I see the commitment. Like, I think the programs are there. Mm-hmm. Like, I see how they can be grown into and how they can... Whereas sometimes when you know a situation isn't working, they show up with, like, bad programs as well. So at least there's, like, something to start from. And it just looks like things are out of sorts, not beyond repair. So I'm sure, like, in the way that, like, we saw a lot from this, I'm sure it was clear to their team now, and they have to figure out how to move forward. For whatever that means. I'm sure it's a learning curve. Well, literally, because he's at college. But I mean, like, I'm sure they're going to have to mess around with a couple of strategies here to see what takes. Because it was clear that whatever this plan was isn't the solution.
Yeah, it's interesting how I don't think we ever thought this was really going to work. But, you know, you let someone do it and then they make their own choices. But it's interesting. It's reminiscent of Michelle Kwan because she actually had to start like dropping class by class when she was competing because there's just only so much time, you know, and in the rink and in traffic and in life and all the things you have to do to be a top skater. She also had media commitments and all sorts of things. And Nathan's going off to Japan while he's at Yale, which may be more common at Yale, but not common for a college student. And also the course load, you'd imagine, and just lots of things going on here. So it's also interesting, the coaching himself, because you remember how like Michelle Kwan's technique started to really go when she was coaching herself, like little nuances.
Well, how could it not? Yeah. How can you see it? How can you assess it in the same way? Yeah, of course.
So I have a feeling something will not hold. And I know people were writing in the comments, give him time, let him do it. And I think we should give him time. I also just think if he's going to compete...
But you should use that time wisely. You can't just like let the time just be. It won't just magically get better if you don't make alterations as each thing happens. Yeah.
I think one of the things you learn when you go through it is that you can't do it all. You can't have the full course load in this, and maybe you want to take some classes or have someone look at your jumps while you're there at Yale. Or
it's not about effort. I don't think it's about commitment. It's about actual like logistics and focus.
Yeah,
that would be impossible to do both.
It was interesting why the Yale thing to me was always interesting because obviously if you get into Yale, you can likely get into Harvard, and Harvard is in Boston, which has so many coaches around. And even though maybe he, obviously liked Yale better than Harvard, it would be interesting if you're making like a overall decision why you would think you could coach yourself. Even though I think Nathan and his mom were always running the show, it just kind of shows you that this is maybe, he's fighting his instincts at certain points. It's not a setup for success kind of situation. So,
well, and then the question is like, is kind of no information better than new information that may get in the way? You know what I mean? Like, this just seems out of whack. It doesn't seem like he's messing with the technique. It just seems like it's not brushed up.
Someone explained this to me. They said that if you have a coach and they only give you 1 or 2 corrections that even mean anything in a week, if they just sit there or tell you to stop or, work, or just kind of because you get like in your head when you're training and preparing, they said if the coach only does 1 or 2 things that's valuable per week, that's a successful week for a coach. Like, that's meaningful, and it was worth every penny to have that coach there. And that's when you see that, maybe 1 or 2 things dip this week, then next week, that's why, even if you just have another set of eyes there that can give you that little...
Well, and like you're saying, the one that says, nope, you need to push through, do another run of this, or no, it is time to stop. Let's walk away from this. Yeah. You know what I mean? You need that assistance, I would think.
Especially Nathan, who's changed his combination at the at the Olympics in the last moment. These are just not Frank Carroll decisions. You have...
Right.
and I get that it's a new world, that it's points and everything, but the keys to success don't change that much over time with the preparation. So I think that interesting, still evolving, curious to see what happens. I think he's extremely talented, extremely bright, and I think that we will see movement in this situation in one way or another in the next weeks. I know. Yeah, Phil Hirsch is rooting for it, though. Phil Hirsch is saying, "No, it's going to be fine," but it's
of course. Well, everyone's rooting for him. I mean, of course, everyone wants to do him well. It's just a matter of finding out what kind of formula will be the best solution.
Yeah. So, speaking of Phil, did you read the Medvedeva article? So
yes, and I got news for you, though. I am to me, it's such a tired story at this juncture.
Well, because they didn't say anything
that,
new.
Phil's writing about it now. Yeah, why now? And what's new, really, I guess.
Yeah. I would say that Evgenia is being really diplomatic, and he said how she didn't want to talk about Atari. So there is a way that we knew about that, what Atari said, and it was, that comment was made publicly that I asked Doug Haw about, and I've never really addressed that.
And I loved it.
So that comment was said by someone. There's a reason I asked it, and it was said at a camp that we knew someone at, and it was brought up by another skating professional, and it's why I asked Doug Haw. And it was made publicly. I didn't invent it. Doug Haw didn't invent it. That thing was said in front of a group of people in a public forum, and it was a conversation that was had, and that's why I brought it up as an interviewer, which we're supposed to do, but people wanted me to write things, and it was just, anyway, just thought that I would bring that out.
It's always something.
It is, but what it is.
To me, when I saw yet another article about it, I was like, this is just so much more of the same. It's getting a bit tired, the storyline.
Yeah. Interesting, like that kind of situation. So, and also, we saw Javier do the Prometo program. You don't seem to like it. I don't know, the one that Sandra and David Wilson did for him. I loved it. So I don't. Why are you laughing, Jonathan?
I don't know. It just makes me giggle because it's just so not what I associate with him as being.
I thought it was better, than he usually does.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like seeing like a class clown try to be in a drama. You know what I mean? It's like I'm suddenly watching like Joan Rivers in Macbeth, and you're like, what are you doing?
Well,
to me it was just confusing.
Well, I think
it's a quality program, and he does it really well. But to me, I'm just like, what are you doing?
See, I thought that it showed that he was capable of more all along. I actually wrote down in my notes, my pre-Jonathan poo-pooing it notes, that I wrote down that I feel that when we talked all about last year, remember when I said that I didn't like his Man of La Mancha program? And people were like, but he wants to put an homage to Spain. Here he had a Spanish singer, and it was great, and it had depth, and it wasn't just cornball-y. I thought that this was really kind of fantastic, and I loved it. And I said, this is what I would have loved to have seen him do during the Olympics, like an homage to Spain, and just, it was wonderful. It wasn't as on-the-nose, obvious kind of McDonald's fast food quality that you would get from something as obvious as that kind of a performance. I loved it. It had depth. It was the difference between a chain restaurant and an eatery, Jonathan. Okay, I loved it. I loved the sweater. It was Sandra dripping in Sandra Bezic, and I loved it. And I think she should be
was
everywhere.
Just like sensitive Javi. Yeah.
Yes. She just brought out...
Who knew he had all those feelings? Yeah.
Sandra just brought out his passion to skate. That way she was...
Exactly.
It actually reminded me of that, the piece where she's working with Katya and Ilya in her TV special, and he's wearing, the khaki pants, and they're skating to Ricky Martin's Casi un Bolero back in the day. But it reminded me of that from 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the 2000s were rough, between the late 90s and the early 2000s. It was pre-grunge, post-grunge. We went into this poppy era, and it was a struggle, I think, for many people. I think.
Yes, I agree with you. Show skating had a real tough time around then.
Listen, Tara was skating to American Woman. She was very patriotic, and yes. We also got to see your favorite Yuri on Ice duo, Lambiel, skate with Dennis. What do we think of this performance? They've done it enough times that now I think that we can start to it's no longer a new novel program.
The novelty of it has worn off. Yeah, it could be interesting to get something new now.
So when they skate side by side, have you always noticed that Dennis is always half a beat behind Lambiel? It's literally you could see he's turned. It's not dissimilar to the Aliona and Alexa situation where he has a student that he's turning into himself, and not a bad person to turn into. Instead of making Dennis just the best Dennis. Dennis is incorporating all of his twizzle movements, and there are a lot of things he's picking up. But I just felt he's off often behind Lambiel, and it's often distracting. But Lambiel is the one who missed the jump. So,
but I'm impressed that like Dennis got the invitation to do this.
Well, he's getting it through Lambiel, and then he got it through the opening.
I know. I mean,
and then this is a good thing for Dennis. Dennis is really improving, I have to say. Even if he doesn't wind up being the clone of Lambiel, all of this training will take his skating to the next level. He's kind of he doesn't really yet get how to do the whole like release your upper bot. I don't think any of us can do it, but like how Lambiel like releases his shoulders and then he like does the head on the movement with the hair flying back, and like Dennis is still learning.
He's still in 101 on that course.
Yeah, but he's incorporating such like things. I was like, wow, like he's really he's improving. Like
it's working.
It's something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But we also saw the Zagitova exhibition of Survivor. Now, there have been so many people that have been asking us, and it seems the gays really love this. You know, they love Beyonce. They love their Zagitova. I thought it was okay. I thought it was better than her short program or her free skate. It had a lot of the same choreographical phrases kind of put in the program, like a Marilyn Charlie or Marina exhibition. You know where the lift is coming from.
It's like a little Just Add Water. Yeah. It's a bit like,
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's good to see her be young, be current, skate to music you could tell that she enjoys or responds to, and It was good to see her just be young, I thought. That was kind of, because we always see her in these, like, really mature, dated references, you know, with the Phantom.
Like
and
that are put on her. Yeah,
so it was interesting to see how she kind of was skating to something, you know. I thought that was... I think the program is good. I thought it was interesting. She kind of tested out like a truce of a squat that we saw the best, the bestie squat. I thought that was kind of cool that to see that she's working on that, putting in, that's
to prove that she could. Yeah, exactly.
But to me, when we watched her next to Satoko, I was like, oh, like the juxtaposition. It was like watching the Junior Grand Prix and the Senior Grand Prix. I was like, I think that Zagitova is wonderful, and then you see Satoko, and you're like, okay, she still has a lot of room to grow as a performer. Like that was.
And Satoko was exquisite in this. Like,
oh
this
my
is
god!
How I like it.
Oh my god! It was just Jonathan Byer, 1010. Tell us about Satoko.
Really
how did she move you, Jonathan? How did you feel?
No, I mean it was just lovely, and again, I mean more of than to me the long personally. The tango, but it was just exquisite. It was just really effervescent, which is why I like it.
Yeah. So let's talk about our boy Daisuke Takahashi, who returned to competition. Again, he did the kind of the regional sectional route, the Japan equivalent. Admirable. Just starting right back at the beginning. So I thought with him it was interesting because he was apparently doing really great, in the spring and summer. Then he had a minor injury. He's coming back. I thought the footwork was absolutely fantastic, especially in the free skate. The jumps did look like Carrot Cake City. There were some under rotations, but I didn't really care. It was just so wonderful to see him skate again, and I'm excited.
And the music was the program, the free program was like pretty interesting. At first, it started with the Rachmaninoff, and I was like, okay, where is this going? And then it was like being infused with modern elements, and I was like, yes, this is everything I love. But obviously the jumps weren't there, but the reason I was a little nervous was because I was afraid they were the kind of not there that made me believe they weren't like gonna be there tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like when you see certain mistakes, you're like, okay, it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Or I know it's probably there most of the time. But these I was like, like, I don't know about the future of this, and it makes me sad because he's such an important skater and the programs are so beautifully created and skated that I wouldn't want to see it. So we don't really know what the injury was. We just know that there was something minor, and I don't, know the details of this, and perhaps our viewers do, and they can leave it in the comments below. I really didn't know, what the thing. I think if he gets healthy and, keeps
I think it will get better. His snap will get better. He's always been kind of a rhythm skater. People talk about the Japanese skaters kind of jumping from the edge a lot of times. So I think a lot of it is just going to be his overall health, timing and health, to get better. And I think Benoit did the free, right? Benoit did the free. David did the short. I really did like Benoit's work. It's interesting. It's like you could kind of see what Benoit's capable of when he has like the skater who can perform the vehicle, and I thought that was really it was interesting. It was an interesting new take on Daisuke with this. It was like a new pairing, and I liked it.
And this idea of the classical with the more funky kind of music, it was done in a really smart way. Like something was actually cool about it instead of like cheesy.
It felt like we were watching Amelie for the first time all over again, and I loved it.
Amazing. Especially because I needed subtitles for what I was hearing while the video was playing also. Yeah.
But, yeah, rewatch that footwork. It was just fantastic. Now, his timing under pressure was off, and there was just like a little stuff, but he did have that kind of cool thing going on with the hands throughout the performance. And
at certain musical beats, like it's very angular, the Benoit stuff, and very sharp with the time, and each music thing had a beat like before certain jumps and stuff. It was pretty cool.
We need to meet Benoit. We need to talk to him. He can give us films to watch and things. I think we can.
he seems an interesting
person.
Artsy kind of.
I don't think we could see what he was just doing with Brady being Cinderella, and it was like the clock was striking midnight, and she had to go home in the mid-performance. We got to see here a lot of his capability. So
a lot more of what it could be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was interested. Okay, and
I just hope it continues to grow technically, so that it can be relevant. Because I would love to see him.
Yes, and shout out to his superfan Genki, who has kept us abreast of this. Any moment. Hey, what makes me laugh about the super fandom is about Daisuke and many of these skaters is they're real super fans. When they're on TV, they'll send you unlisted YouTube videos of them. And then an hour later, the Daisuke video was posted by someone else, like on YouTube for everyone to see. But it's like the excitement and the secrecy, and it's like
first viewing. Yeah, exactly.
Viewing, yes. I love it. If you've met her, oh God, it's fantastic. Okay.
Amazing.
She was the one who, I think we talked about this. Daisuke did a Christmas show a couple years ago, and she had bought tickets in Japan to see her family and bought tickets for 5 out of the 6 performances, and she was looking for a black market ticket for the 6th performance, and I just love that there were black market skating tickets going on.
Exactly.
It made me really happy.
That's even a market.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about the final Junior Grand Prix, Jonathan, because this was kind of the culmination of the moment we got to see.
And appropriate that was in Yerevan, because I was actually at a big Armenian wedding last night. So it just only seemed fitting that the Junior Grand Prix was happening in Armenia.
And you're in LA at the moment, so
correct.
Were the Kardashians present?
Well, yeah, some of them related by marriage were, because they're all of Armenia is connected here.
I do like how in New Jersey all of the Armenians did know each other. It would be like, oh yes, they have a strong cultural bond. Yeah, they have like a network that is and they have such great last names always like.
Beautiful.
Sarajian, Shabanian.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, talking about Armenia, is Artur Danyelian, is he Armenian? It seems like a last name there may be somewhat.
It could be. The Jeans, the Ians, all those kinds of endings I associate with the region, but I don't know.
So I love him to pieces, Jonathan. And he's grown up since last year. He has like some man muscle on him. Like all of a sudden he was a boy and now he's growing into a man.
Yes, exactly.
Did you?
Because what did we see him skate at last year? Was it just Junior Nationals, or I thought that was like a special exhibition we saw him do somewhere?
We saw him skate more than once last year, but he caught our eye.
Yeah. It was like it's just kind of like baby Aliyev. Like, I don't know. There's just that inherent born thing that's going on.
So I'll tell you what I was obsessing over with him. I'm like giddy. So first of all, he had a really pretty triple axel in the bonus, and I thought that would be noted. So when I do my next judging video, maybe we'll discuss him.
Yes, I love the judging videos.
Did you see the one? I really went in. I really did.
I know. I was like, oh, he's going there. PTSD for everyone.
Well, I really felt like I was breaking it down. I really was.
Right.
I have some creative fun. So what made me so happy about Artur Danielian this week was, and please let us know how to pronounce the Armenian names. Like,
that sounds right.
I don't know if I don't think the emphasis is on the right syllable. So,
okay.
He has a turned out perfect free leg on every single point of his footwork. That is so wonderful. And it's not like, if you notice, sometimes when Machida will point, he will emphasize that he's pointing, and it kind of takes you away. Like, there's a subtlety to the way, and a gracefulness to the way Artur moves on each little footwork element, and he bends his knee, and it's just wonderful, and it makes me want to.
Well, it's a softer, a lilt to his body. Yeah, but it's like you were saying about Kolyada versus Aliyev. This is the same kind of comparison, you know, between him and the Machida being just a strong, statuesque, solid picture, a snapshot. Yeah, but his is more buoyant. It has more three-dimensional to it, more curves.
And he has musical arms and that free leg on the footwork. He did have some, mistakes. But I just, he's got that old Russian lady coach. It made me miss my old Russian lady coach. I was like, oh, we all need one in our lives to be telling us about these details and to yell at us and mother us and, bring us,
get your toe point. Get your foot turned on. Yeah.
Give us the arnica cream, and oh yes, I just love him to bits. So I was so excited to, really watch him this week. So
yeah, he's very special.
Yes, he. Did you see? So I'm not even going to pronounce it. Adam from France, who won. Coached by Joubert currently, and Morozov, you could see the Joubert quad toe that was very Tarasova, Yagudin inspired. You could see that there.
That lineage. Okay.
Yeah. And then I thought the rest of the program you could kind of see some Joubert too. And it was just a little bit of a mess.
I see what you did there. I'll forever remember Terry Gannon being completely baffled by Brian Joubert and Sochi being like, he's like, I thought that was really good, because he had technically landed all of his stuff, but it was so at that juncture just completely irrelevant. Yeah. You know what I mean? This whole school, this whole style, this whole approach is just completely outdated now. And so maybe that's being relayed.
Yeah. But who I really did like was Yuma Kageyama from Japan, and he was the one who tripped as he was skating out for his free program. But, he reacted kind of so endearingly to it and just laughed. And he was such
Sometimes I think it must just, take you out of your own neuroses for a second in a nice way.
So I need someone to explain to me what Yuma's music is and if it reminded anyone else of when you're at Epcot Center. I haven't been at Epcot in a while, but I went there a couple of times between 2000 and 2003. We went with band, I went with my family, and it just reminded me of, again, that, oh my god, that obscure European skater who actually skated to the Epcot fireworks music. But anyway, then there was, Thomas Werner's competitor skated to it. Was it Kevin Vanderparen? Skated to that music.
Oh, a little Belgian action there. Yeah, okay.
And he skated to the Epcot music, but this one reminded me of Epcot Center, or that Michael Jackson kind of ride that he did in Disney with
Captain
the space,
EO,
the Captain
EO.
It was a little bit that, I was getting that reference throughout with the metallic-y costume, but he had
so a slightly dated situation is also how I'm reading that comment.
Jonathan, you really had to point out the shade there. But
it's how I'm saying it, just in case anyone's missing it.
As if skating itself isn't dated all over the place, okay?
Exactly. Exactly.
We had the girl looking like Russian Heidi who was getting the silver medal. Okay, I mean, come on. Like all of skating is not dated as get
Yeah,
out, get out.
exactly.
Come on. So it was. I thought it was nice. I liked him. I'm curious to see. He had a beautiful donut spin, and the coach had a really good clapping energy before he took center ice.
Amazing. It is interesting to watch the clapping strategies of various Japanese coaches.
I was into it. I was like, oh, he's got the nice hair. He has some interesting technique. He's got that Nathan arm body position. I'm like, oh, Jonathan's gonna like that. It's very Nathan-esque. And I thought, okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. 9 times out of 10, I love what's coming out of the Japanese ice rinks. You know, just in their attention to detail and style and posture. So. And then not always, but 9 times out of 10.
And then in the Junior Grand Prix, oh my goodness, I can't read my own writing. So the bronze medalist from Japan, it was interesting. She had to stop her music because something happened with the music, and I couldn't tell what it was.
And this time it wasn't the confetti.
No
confetti this.
But she was like skating around, and I know like she was skating around, and she didn't do any jumps, but she just like was doing like basic stroking exercises. It was the most impressive thing. Just watching her do like power pulls and cross stroking and
like an edge class. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was mesmerized. I was like, yes. And then we saw her do footwork and
all the points.
Her footwork, like all of her body placement over the edge at every point during that footwork was so fantastic. It was 1,000,000 times better than any of her jumps. I was just like, oh my God, thank you. This was fantastic. Okay. That 20 minutes of edge class in the middle of it really paid off.
It really paid off, yeah.
Did anyone else notice it? Was anyone else as into it? I mean, the program did nothing for me, but that footwork and that stroking was just like...
It means there's potential. It means it can be drawn out.
So, Elena Konisheva, the one that I called Russian Height, I was being...
Yes.
Dave.
Because of her grandpa. Being a
bitch. Okay. First of all, love her. Second of all, she was a little bit nervous here. You could tell throughout the jumps and throughout some of the takeoff and the footwork. She actually lost balance a little bit on a twizzle. But she did get the last spot into the Junior Grand Prix final. And I see a lot of potential with her. You know, I see like future trajectory where you could see the long-term potential, which is, I think, one of the purposes of the Junior Grand Prix. I think you could either try to win every Junior Grand Prix now and try to become Junior Grand Prix, because ultimately I was having an existential moment of thoughts, and I was wondering, do you think Eteri cares if any of these, because we get so many comments when I post videos of Eteri's girls doing the Lutzes and the combinations, you can kind of know there are people that are going to take down the technique, there are people that are going to criticize maybe the landing, then there are going to be people being like, these girls are going to all hurt themselves. And I was wondering, do they care? Do they have any incentive? Because every year, I was looking at Eteri in 2014, Eteri had Yulia at the Olympics, who was the star of the team event, and she had Medvedeva at the Junior Worlds finishing third. And she had Yulia then finish second at regular Worlds. The next year, she had first and second at Junior Worlds. Then the next year, in 2016, she had the world champion. In 2017, she had the senior and the junior world champion. And then in 2018, she was first and second at Junior Worlds and first and second at the Olympics. And I don't think she has I don't think it matters to her who's winning, because she'll always have a skater who's winning. It's like Marta Karoli. It doesn't matter who the person is. The next person will win, you know.
Now, sometimes in opera, they have managers versus agents. It's a discussion, and different countries have different things. The manager is the one who's really going to try to like shape your career. What is your trajectory? What are you saying? And what is this big arc? And an agent is just trying to get you gigs. Mm-hmm. They don't care. You're just a product. They're just trying to get you to be plugged into some money. And it's a little bit this coaching vibe. Like someone back in the old days, like Frank or somebody, for example, was like shaping Michelle over like a period of time, start to finish. What is her trajectory? What is she destined for? What is the big picture here? And it is a little bit more, this Eteri vibe seems less like, now what is your personal journey and how are we going to get you? But it's just like, we've got 3 medals we can potentially win at the Junior Grand Prix final. Who's going to win them?
Yeah.
Let's just plug in 3 people to win those medals. So it does seem a lot of like penny smart, dollar stupid kind of investment, in that they need, what's more important are the results now, not the people.
And maybe. She already
and
has.
Maybe that's what's being determined for them.
And she already
I think U.S. doesn't want results. U.S. wants stars, and we're not getting either.
We're not getting either. So, and we'll talk about that, because as much as we talk about a Terry, the top U.S. skater was ranked 19th on the Junior Grand Prix, behind skaters from Russia who only performed once, or for other countries.
Yeah.
So the top U.S. skater was 19th. So this is not like a real criticism on a Terry. It's just, when people make the comments about Trusova's quad lats, or I don't know that they're worried if she's going to make the Olympics. Like, I don't think it's all about the Olympics for them, because I think, especially how funding of Russian coaches works, Terry is basically getting the top funding now. She basically produces champions at every level. She gets the gold medals. That's kind of all they care about. It doesn't matter who's really winning in the long run. And I know that that's like a sad case, but it doesn't really matter for them, because she has other girls who are already people are talking about that aren't on the Junior Grand Prix yet, and they'll bring in girls from all over the place if they need to replace them. That's the kind of thing. It's a factory of this thing, and it's winning. Until these
they take it so importantly there. They take their juniors very seriously, and quite frankly, it just shows maybe the disconnect in USFS, that they're trying to get a Gracie story revived, but it's like, to what end?
Well, because it's all we have. It's all we have.
But to me, it's like you have to abandon the now. The now is over. The now is too late. Yeah. Put all of your energy and resources into those just becoming juniors, or all of that kind of work that they do already here had to have been done way before that.
This is why we all need a gay skating dad like Alyssa Liu, because he took the Tom Dixon advice, and she visited Tom Dixon, and now he flew out there and is working with her on her skating skills. So they are kind of
those kinds of investments need to be made at that kind of level. Those are the ones they need to be really investing in, because that's, and again, that's this wave of Russia. And in Japan, they're always right there. So the turnover, we can argue that the Russian turnover is too frequent, but they really take that Junior Grand Prix circuit very seriously.
Did you see how nervous Elena Konisheva was about making the final? And they take it seriously in the other countries that are doing well there.
Yeah.
So apparently the numbers in Korea, just on the ISU YouTube, for someone that's working with the ISU, told me that the numbers from Korea are huge. So as soon as their skaters start doing better, that's going to be a whole market of skating that's going to potentially really explode again. That is what we need to do.
Well, because they've got really some quality men and women. This could be the start of something really, really big there. So,
but talking about Trusova, she did get credited for the first quad lutz. It got higher GOE than it probably should have gotten, but I think it was a moment in the sport that kind of benefited from that, and she did have some positive aspects to it, of the jump, but it was I was just wondering with her, when I watch, and I know that physically she's the most gifted, but artistically I feel like they haven't worked with her at all, and they haven't worked with her on her skating skills, and you could really see in the footwork she's doing a lot of it on a straight leg, and there's not a lot of ride out and the skating
This is a one-trick pony situation here, so they've definitely dumped all their eggs in one basket, or whatever that expression is. But it's the thing that's unusual for me is so I saw some people posting it, and they're like, look at this epic moment in skating history, and I was like, yeah, I guess it is. I don't know why something so incredibly phenomenal, technically, that it just doesn't I don't know why it doesn't impact me in any way. It's because she is so slight, it seems like it doesn't count as much in a way, if I'm being totally honest. And because the jump looks the way it does, I don't know, I was so much more excited at the thought of Kolyaraz, but I don't know why that is, because I felt like maybe that jump was more
It's adult.
traditionally. It's
adult.
an adult version of the jump, and this one is a child version of the jump. And I don't mean to take away, because it's incredible that she can do it, but it's just not impacting me the way you would think a woman landing a quad Lutz would impact me. I don't know if
it's not
you
like
find
Wakaba going into that quad Lutz and
yeah, like I've seen. I mean, some
her
of
triple
Elizabeth
axel is
just, like,
exciting. You know, like that's the
yes.
Tuktumisha doing this would be exciting because it had some real power and height and speed. Which this one was more of a spinny one. I mean, it's what she's doing and the guts that this girl has, I think, is incredible.
It's incredible. And I just feel bad that, like, for some reason it isn't resonating as powerfully as maybe it should.
It's funny because when you watch even Shcherbakova do it and they have that little step out, you could tell, like, it's like you know, like they are trained to be warriors. I mean, they are in that Marta Karoli microcosm of competition every single day. And it's why they're getting the results. It just seems stressful. You know, I think for the girls, like they are there to win. They are not there to enjoy skate. Like they are there to win for one shot only. And I think in terms, it'd be interesting to know like what each skater does. Like how does winning a junior Grand Prix impact their lives in Russia? Because they may be getting more funding. Their family may be getting, you know, a lot of benefits from that we don't even know how important even the junior title is.
Well, even like when we went back to Calgary and like Debbie then realized like she just wanted to win the gold medal to win the gold medal, and then she finds out why Katerina needed to win the gold medal, and she was like, oh gosh, the kind of different pressure there must be absolutely ridiculous. But the thing I like so much about when someone like Mao skated, or when someone like Alia, or these kinds of people, is that I see the joy of skating in them. And with the exception of Kosternaya and maybe Shcherbakova, like I don't necessarily get anyone exuding joy or feeling a reckless abandon or a freedom. I don't catch a free vibe from someone like Trusova.
She's an incredible athlete. She reminds me of gymnasts so much. You know, like she could go out there and be successful in any sport. Yeah, she's such an athletic body.
And that focus comes at a tunnel vision, which is incredible because it's why she's able to achieve those great things. But it does kind of shut down.
There's no performance.
The things around.
Outside of the part of the performance that's put on. And what is the story of the program and what's the music? It's kind of awful, but she has a vibe. She has a cool vibe that goes on, and you see it more in the short program, which is really effective with the Kill Bill. But the free, I'm not getting anything.
And I'm sure, I mean, again, it's a particular style, but one wonders if they are trying all the styles to see what takes, but it's clear maybe that's not totally how they think over there in that campaign.
So I would love to know actually what her free skate is about. It's some sort of a theme, but it's not quite an Averbuk theme.
She's putting up that wall for the audience.
There is some wall.
About to say goodbye.
There's intensity going on, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. So. Well, as always, Jonathan, what was your moment of the week? All of this going on, this arts skating.
Seeing Daisuke back is just like always pretty lovely. So, yeah. Oh, but actually, I kind of enjoyed the Machida program in a way, and that it reminded me of like those old school VHS skating specials that they don't even do anymore. So, a nod for that throwback kind of performance.
Well, my moment of the week is when that interviewer said to Gracie, and he was completely serious. He said that he's like, well, my daughter's now training and she's all in for Tokyo. And it was like, oh, I just like created a backstory in my head of like what his full story was. I was like, were you an absentee parent while like, going through your struggles? And now you're like just investing in your daughter, and like you don't actually know anything about her activity. She was doing a single salchow on a straight leg. The girl was like 5'8" and like 12. I mean, Jonathan, it was hysterical. I was like, okay, you have not a clue about any of this, but you're making up for lost time there. And
good luck. Yeah, exactly.
There was a lot. There was a lot. They had a discussion about cronuts that really upset people, and just it was so many things. But
a racy interview from start to finish.
You know, if they didn't take that down, that video. Unfortunately, he's not a YouTube partner yet because he didn't meet the requirements. But I was like, that video would have made you a couple of coins, huh?
Somebody.
That would have, So, all right. Well, Jonathan, you have to get to the airport. You're going to Vancouver.
Yes, I do. I am indeed.
Yeah, so as always, if you like the video, please crush that like button, retweet us, share us, and we'll see you next week. Hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.